Bases dropped on a Freestyle Friday here at Soccer Down Here. Soccer's morning show starts with you. And it's a busy day. We're maybe in a no dilly, no dally zone. Here's the rundown as we've got it. Morning, Abby. By the way, Abby, thank you for sending the card, the New Year's card. Got it. Thank you very much for sending that. Don't know. Usually, to answer your question, at 9:30 should be Greg Garza, since Michael Parkhurst was last week. Some weeks they switch off, and so we'll see. So we'll see if it's see if it continues with the one then the other, one then the other. Greg Garza is slated to join us at 9:30. Our friends at Beyond Goals are slated to join us at 9:30. It is Greg Garza's week, so we'll see what happens and see if they trade off, which they've been known to do. But no, once again, Abby, thank you for sending the New Year's card from the family with all the pictures. Got that a couple days ago, now that we're back from vacation. So soccer's morning show rolls on. Very, very busy stuff. First half hour, we'll talk about Atlanta United and try and update you on what we know when it comes to possible additions. And there's another name that was added yesterday, and we'll get into that. And it's an addition at the back. And so we'll discuss what we know about Giakoumakis and what we know about Luis Abram. And we'll get into that here in the first half hour. Once again, our friends at Beyond Goals slated to join us at 9:30 for the Friday free kick. We'll get into what's going on with the men's national team a little bit, get into mentoring, get into off-season stuff about, getting ready for the season, preparation, all those kinds of things. That's slated at 9:30. Bart Keeler hopefully will not be fired by the end of this week, and he is slated to join us at 10 o'clock to discuss what's going on with the men's national team. We had the press conference yesterday that we ended our broadcast for, so you guys could slide over and pay attention to what Cindy Parlow-Cohn and JT Batson wanted to discuss. And so we had the news on Ernie Stewart and Brian McBride, and that came from the press conference yesterday. There was other news that was out of Austin, Texas. We get into that also in the 10 o'clock hour. While it's not related, it is not directly related to what's going on with what's going on inside U.S. Soccer Federation. It was somewhat newsworthy, attaching to the activities of the last, however long you want to say, last couple of months. So we'll get into that at 10 o'clock, 10:30, and then 10:30 and beyond, we get ready for the weekend, and we've got transfer updates around the world. We've got Brighton turning down bids from Moises Caicedo already. They're like $74 million. Nope, not interested, not on the market. Quoting Ted DiBiase, everybody's got a price. $1 Million Man says everybody's got a price. Does Brighton have a price when it comes to Moises Caicedo? We'll get into all of the gossip, rumor, innuendo, things left unsaid, starting at 10:30. Get you ready for the weekend. And so here in the first half hour, who's going to Chattanooga? And what are your expectations? That's the biggest questions. Like, what do you anticipate? What are you anticipating? What's your expectations? What do you want to see out of the match at in Chattanooga? 3 o'clock, and it will. Mike and Jason, I believe, start at 2:30 on 92.9 The Game, and there it will be streaming on 11 Sports. And when we know the information, more on that. ELEVEN, not the number 11, but 11 in the word. 11 Sports will have the stream. And that will be that'll be coming up on the visual side. Mike and Jason will be on the audio side. And so very, very busy day up at Finley Stadium in Chattanooga. Kickoff a little after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But what I want to know from you this morning, and I guess this technically lends itself into opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 with everything going on with Kickoff Coffee. they take 15% off of your purchase, and then they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, expectations for Finley Stadium. What are you thinking? What do you want to see? What do you want to know? What are you anticipating here from this first activity as you're getting into the 2023 season? So that's the question to the floor. And that is what we will tackle throughout the show. That'll be kind of the underlying thread this morning. Expectations at Finley Stadium. Who do you want to see? What do you want to see? What are your expectations? And the latest on Giacomakis, the Giacomakis front, and Yaco. Yeah, see, now I've got to spell it. Giacomakis. All right, so right now you're looking at teams still trying to determine what they want to do. I mean, right now Celtic is going all right, and it's right now in Celtic's hands. And with Celtic, it is all right. If we don't get our number, then Giacomakis ends up staying or taking the offer from Urawa. Man, that always gets me. Urawa Red Diamonds. And CO. That's so it is right there with Giacomakis and Atlanta United. Obviously, there's a number that our friends at Celtic have, and it is going to come down to whether or not Celtic accepts the number that Atlanta United has in mind, and it's been in the neighborhood of £4 million. So we'll keep an eye on that. But once again, if Celtic doesn't feel, and this is from our friends at About Celtic, Celtic will not accept, and this is at About Celtic, Celtic will not accept the offer for Giacomakis unless they change the loan with an option to a guaranteed fee. Player wants to go to MLS, but Celtic are prepared to keep him if they don't improve the offer. £4 million bid from Urawa Red Diamonds, say that 10 times fast, remains on the table, but Giacomakis wants the MLS move for family reasons. Player's been informed by the club that unless he accepts the J-League side's offer or another bid arrives, Celtic will keep him and reassess in the summer. So that's your Giacomakis update. But taking that information into account, where Giacomakis is concerned, if, let's just say, Celtic keeps him, nothing's agreed to between Atlanta United and Celtic. That $4 million bid, and he doesn't want to go to Japan. So Giacomakis doesn't accept the offer to go to Japan. $4 million will not be accepted. He doesn't want to go. Then what you risk if you're Celtic, if you look at it from the other side of this, if Celtic isn't happy with the money coming from Atlanta United or whatever the offer is and whatever the circumstances of the offer are, and Giacomakis does not want to go to the J-League, from everything Celtic, once again, that last part, unless he accepts the J-League side's offer or another bid arrives, Celtic will keep him and reassess in the summer. Problem with that being, with Celtic having brought in O, and we can, and if Jarrett can join us in hour number 2, we can kind of get into this a little bit there as well. But you bring in O for $2.5 million, you've got a log jam at the position. Right now, the number for your bargaining is probably at its peak, because unless something happens and Giacomakis gets more playing time than the guy you just brought in for the express reason of bringing him in, that $4 million valuation may not be as high come the summer. So does Celtic want the money that's being put forth by a club in Major League Soccer, and do they want to make good by the player? For family reasons, Giacomakis wants to come to MLS. So this is where Celtic is in all of this. Celtic has to look at, okay, We have $4 million bid from the J League. Notice I didn't say Urawa Red Diamonds. A £4 million bid from the J League, but the player doesn't want to go. Whatever the number is involving Atlanta United and whatever the terms are, Giakoumakis wants to come to Atlanta United, but Celtic run the risk of not getting that $4 million or whatever the number is of interest from Atlanta United, and risk getting less if you don't boogie now and you wait until the summer. So that's where we are with Giakoumakis. And so you've got 4 days, and it is It is midnight, so it would be 7 o'clock in the evening on the 1st. So 7 o'clock in the evening, East Coast time on the 1st. That's where we are. 4+ days to go. But that's the situation right now with Giakoumakis, Urawa Red Diamonds. That always gets me. Celtic, and a possible move to MLS. Now, yesterday, also on the board, Luis Abrams' name came up. And Luis Abram, Peruvian national team, first brought forward by Cesar Luis Merlo. Negotiations to bring him in from Granada. Granada's in the 2nd division right now. And Atlanta has apparently been scouting him for the last couple of weeks. 5'11", 26-year-old central defender, Peruvian national team, last played at Cruz Azul and was a part of their roster in the Apertura that lost in the quarterfinals, I want to say, of the Apertura. This morning, it was reported by various sources, and it's a 300,000 euro deal is what is being reported by multiple sources and outlets in Spain. It was reported Luis Abram had left the training facility at Granada this morning. So, and he bagged, and there's a picture with him with his Louis Vuitton travel bag, and it looked like he had some stuff that he picked up at the store. And he was from Granada in Juego. There's a picture of him on the egress leaving Sports City this morning. And from Granada and Juego, Luis Abram aims to stop being a Granada CF footballer soon. Winter market closing in 4 days. They mentioned Cesar Luis Merlo taking over the player's services in the form of a transfer. Since his return from loan at Cruz Azul, Abram has worked independently at Sports City and not with the team. Clear sign the Peruvian does not count and will not count for the coach. Once again, this is translated from Granada and Juego. During the morning, this morning, while the team completed the training session prior to the match against Andorra, Luis Abram left the facility, did so with bags. By the script he's acquired his situation, it could be the belongings he still kept in Sports City. So Luis Abram, keep an eye on that. And we're seeing 300,000 euro for the transfer fee of picking up Luis Abram. And once again, this is all stuff that's from the outside. From ideal.es, willing to face a transfer for around 300,000. And that's from Jose Ignacio Sejudo. So Luis Abram is part and parcel of the discussion. So keep an eye out on this. 300,000 euro, bringing in the central defender, left-footed, out of Granada, last played at Cruz Azul on the Apertura. So that's where we are with those two particular transactions. Haven't heard of any others at the moment this morning, or this morning in the moment. But right now, that's what you're staring at. So once again, throughout the show this morning, we're getting ready for the match in Chattanooga. Expectations, anticipation, what do you want to see? And let everybody know your travel plans too, because I know that there are some folks that wanted to find out good places to eat, those kinds of things. Let everybody know what your travel plans are as well when it comes to what's going on. And, you're looking at KFC this morning. Good morning from the frosty Tennessee Plateau. Shot the I-24 gap By the way, Red Wolves and Chattanooga FC be back in the morning and have a great day. Abby going, hoping to see Brad and Miles get a little time on the pitch. So Niall's going to be watching. Well, yeah, I'm working on the QR code. Nick's agreeing with Abby, getting to see Goose and Miles out there. Niall, hope to see just some players we have not seen before play or play in a while, such as Etienne Jr., Goose, and Miles. Michael Head, first and foremost, pulling from the Mike Conti School. No injuries. So that's definitely that's what you're staring at. Emilio is looking for Kamara's up top, saying Yakamaka is going to be sitting on the Celtic bench. Niall wouldn't want to keep an unhappy player. If I were Celtic, I would accept. Don't know, Abby, if he would be a DP. Because if you can spread transfer fee and everything out over the life of a deal, could be high TAM, could be DP, would depend. So, Emilio, this is my offer, Senator. Nothing. So nothing can like it. And yes, things can happen in February. Remember Joseph Martinez. There are windows that close later than February 1st, depending on where you want to deal with folks. But yes, you can do things after February 1st. Yep, left-footed defender, pretty good deal, 300,000 euro. Transfermarkt does list Luis Abram at 4 million euro. And let's go to our friends at FB Ref just to kind of give you a comparison study for Luis Abram. And once again, Peruvian national, plays at the back, plays alongside Alexander Callens. And just to give you a couple notes, and big in blocks, guys that he's compared to. Let's give you the comparison study for Luis Abram. A lot of folks in Liga MX: Luis Fernando Leon, Alanis at Mazatlan, Mateus Felipe at Atletico Paranaense, Christian Gonzalez at Santa Clara, Portland Timbers, Dario Zaparic, for those of you who are looking at Major League Soccer, Ramon Juarez from Atletico San Luis, Victor Guzman at Monterrey, and Dabasi at Minnesota United, Dario Zaparic for the two Major League Soccer players that our friends at FB Ref have laid out to compare to Luis Abram. So only played 12 matches with Cruz Azul, 900 minutes. So the layout for Luis Abram, standard stats, XG is pretty big. Shots on target, goals, shots on target. XG is pretty good. Pass completion, pretty good. And so we'll see the pass types, big in switches and crosses, takes a lot of throw-ins, does corners. Most of the time it's outswinging corners, which is interesting. But so there you go with Luis Abram. Keep an eye on that. And so Luis Abram in the spot shadow for Atlanta United, possibly bringing him in for about 300,000 euro. And we'll see what happens there. Emilio this morning, since Celtic has his replacement, not a matter of Celtic needing an inbound by the 31st. Yeah, you got Jackson Conway card, and we'll see what you're looking for Jackson Conway in Chattanooga. So we'll see what happens with Jackson up top as we go through this camp. And Niall Etienne Jr. has not trained with the team yet, so we'll see. And Michael, this is true, but once again, you're right at the beginning of training camp. You got time. Building the little societies if you're not able to get time with teammates. So if there's time. But just when it comes to this first match, I think a lot of folks are just glad to have a team to sit there and go watch, just to kind of see what you're looking for, what you're getting into this season, the players that are there, the injuries that happen, the injuries that you hope are behind you. Hope they're behind us, and you're getting ready for 2023. So that's what you're kind of staring at here for Atlanta United. I'm interested to see what the relationships are. I'm interested in seeing the young guys. Looking forward to seeing Noah Cobb. I want to see how Noah is continuing to grow. I want to see a Johnny Fortune and see how he's continued to grow. Abby, public service announcement. Gathering beginning at 11, updated parking and tailgate. Chattahooligans really eager to welcome. Yellow is the suggested lot. Red is the area they'll be setting up in. Purple is the entrances. Green is section 102. Just create a link, Abby, if you can, because I know that you've got a map that you want to put a map picture on. See if there's a way that you can put it in the Discord, or figure out if there's a link to a picture or something that you can post in the Twitch pitch. Setting up around 11. La Dose will have a mobile bar. They'll be grilling, but they're just doing bring your own everything, large cooler. Folks want to drop in drinks. So Nix is suggesting Twitter links. So Abby's going to put it in the Discord. So we'll see. Don't know why Derek Etienne Jr. has not been training. So, but, once again, looking forward to it. But first and foremost, I agree with Michael Head. Pulling from the Mike Conti School, no injuries. No injuries, no injuries, no injuries. Everybody getting it, because, remember, you had Machop Cho get injured in Mexico. You had George Campbell get injured in Mexico last year, very early on. And so you want folks healthy. Get in, want to see you, love to see you. And don't be surprised if you're staring at, the bigger names maybe getting only 30 minutes, maybe 45. Don't know how many will get more than 45, get to 60 and then pulled. Looking at what you're looking at from Chattanooga, I think they have they're going to have a lot of trialists. So we'll see what Chattanooga brings to the table under Rod Underwood. You know that Chattanooga FC, they're going to press, they're going to do their thing, even if it's early in the year, it's the first game, and they got a bunch of trialists. It's going to be, we're going to do our thing, we're going to press, and we're going to be up tempo, and we'll see what happens with Chattanooga FC. So we'll see what happens there, but anticipate up tempo from Chattanooga FC. For Atlanta United, the big names, maybe 45. There's going to be a lot of substitutions. There will be a lot of substitutions in this match, and so for Mike and Jason, and for the streaming on 11 Sports, it's going to be a bit of an adventure, but ELEVEN Sports, by the way. So it's going to be a bit of an adventure in keeping track of everything, but it's just looking at the relationships. There we go. Here's your link in the Discord. So the Discord link exists. Thank you, Abby, for posting that in the Discord. So if you were looking for the supporters group gatherings, then go to the Discord. And if you're not a member of the Discord, shoot us a note, and we'll figure out how you can gain access to all the information and all the conversation that everybody has in the Discord on a regular basis. So Abby has put it in the Discord, the map and all of the travel plans and the BYO plans for everybody. Tomorrow, game starts a little after 3 o'clock, but it looks like everything's going to be starting bright and early around 11. Bring your own stuff. Be prepared to have fun. It's the beginning of the 2023 season right there. First, foremost, bada bing, there you go. And so Abby thinks parking's $10. Park Mobile app can be used, cash or credit card. So keep an eye on all of that stuff as well. And we know that you guys are really, really good when it comes to keeping all of the conversations with each other and keeping everybody up to date on travel and all those kinds of things. So it will be very, very cool to see a lot of you up there in Chattanooga who are making the trip. But yeah, it's the official beginnings of the 2023 season. Training camp is one thing, but we've got folks out there that are right out there on the pitch. It's really cool stuff. And so I'm going to test the limits. I'm going to test the limits of the equipment. Just to make sure, because it is time for Friday. So that means we got to run this intro. With this guy. What's going on, Cap?
How you doing, John? I'm doing well.
All right, so you've got your friends, and they're training camping, and you're sitting here in your office on a Friday morning. Yeah, there's a smile on your face too, nodding your head. You're like, okay, yeah, y'all are in training camp, and I am not. Do you ever miss it?
Uh,
See, there you go.
the only part of training camp that I miss is like being together and like having that off time in between training sessions or like a day off where you can kind of go out and do stuff off the field with some teammates and hang out, that type of thing. And like, hanging out in hotel rooms a little bit here and there. But that's about it.
When what are your when you think of training camp, you mentioned the camaraderie and all those kinds of things. What was your first training camp like as a pro?
John, I could tell you some stories about training camps.
You want to write a book? We can write a book if you want.
So, a couple of funny stories from training camp back when I started in 2005 was much different than training camp nowadays. Right? It was a little bit different of a time period where preseasons were longer. You didn't show up 100% fit. Plus, I played for Stevie Nickel and Paul Mariner, who were like the ultimate players coaches. I mean, they wanted to have a good time above all else. And for example, it wasn't my first training camp, but I think it was my second or third year. We went to Cancun. And basically, we showed up and they put a bracelet on our wrist. And they were like, well, here's where you can eat your meals. And, we're going to have training at 10 o'clock every morning. Make sure you're on the bus at 9:30. And otherwise, I don't care what you do. Or
wow.
It was unbelievable. We went to some crazy places. We went to Bermuda every year. I think they had some partnership with a travel agency. It was incredible. We had some preseasons.
Yes, I bet you have had some preseasons. I mean, like I said, you want to write a book, we can write a book. We can do the documentary, do the behind the scenes. We can do the 30 for 30 if you want. When you talk to your mentees, when they're just starting their seasons, because high school season's starting here in Georgia and here in the South, I'm sure it's probably picking up steam all around the country. But when you have your mentees who are starting their own organizational elements, their seasons are starting, what conversations do you have with them about having hopefully maintained what you were hoping they were going to do in the off season and getting ready to take those first steps into their organized team activities? Do you break down what it's like to get things started all over again with your mentees and how to try to keep things in a straight line?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's so different now where the off season is so much shorter, even for the kids at a younger age. They've got some weeks maybe in between seasons and halfway points of seasons and stuff. So, I mostly say, hey, try and keep your fitness at a decent level, but take time off and enjoy yourself and relax and get away from the game, physically and mentally. Go do some other things to help keep yourself fit and enjoy being a kid. And then when it starts back up, I always say, don't be in a rush to get back to, your top level, right? You can't expect that, you go out there in day 1 or even day 5, day 10 and be at your ultimate best, right? And because if the expectation is that you're going to be at your best, then it can lead to some confidence issues and some, why aren't I there yet? Am I going to get back there? Like, why aren't I there yet? And so, you have to give yourself time because it's not something that you can just turn off and turn on all the time, right? It takes a little bit of time to get back in the flow and get it into a rhythm. So those expectations are important.
Is there a generational difference when it comes to expectations? And what I mean by that is, we're, on our driver's license, we're adults anyway. We may not act like adults, but I mean, when we are of when we look back when we were kids, I think expectation levels might have been a little tempered. But now with the younger athletes, is pressure different? Is it more? I mean, when you look at today's younger athletes, how different is the pressure that they face versus what we faced, do you think?
It's much different, much different. The expectations are much different. They're much higher. And the amount that they put into it, the amount that parents put into it for their kids, the finances, the year round. I was just thinking about it the other day, because my son was complaining that, he was bored and like couldn't do anything, because I'm not allowing him on electronics for the day. And, just can't find anything to do, John, if he's not on an electronic. And I was thinking back to my time and I'm like, God, there was a basketball hoop down the street and I would go shoot hoops for hours just by myself. And, I just loved shooting hoops, even though I wasn't that good at basketball, but I could shoot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, and then that got me thinking, I wasn't practicing soccer. And I loved baseball growing up. And so it was like, man, I went long periods without, really focusing hard on soccer. And this is, when I was between the ages of, 9 and 12 probably. And a lot of kids in that time frame today are so dedicated to one sport and 365. And so I think because of that, the expectations are a lot higher. And you see some kids out there today who are phenoms and they're 10, 11, 12 years old. And then everybody wants to be as good as them and thinks if they're not as good as them, then they can't get to the ultimate level. And I disagree wholeheartedly because a lot of those phenoms won't make it because they'll get sick and tired of it. They'll be burnt out. They won't have the love for it. And a lot of those kids that still have the love haven't developed yet for, physically or mentally or whatever, just haven't put it all together yet. But if that love's there and the desire's there and, that continues to grow as you get older instead of diminishing, then that gap can easily be jumped.
How hard is it to encourage today's athlete to go and do other things? It's like, yeah, dude, I know you're locked in. I know you love what you're doing with soccer. It's cool. It's okay. How hard of a convincing job is it to have them go out in the backyard and go, I'm about to date myself here, but be Carlton Fisk in the 75 series, and do those kinds of things. How difficult is it to convince today's young athlete it's okay to be other things?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to convince the parents as well. And I think part of it is this like instant gratification that we've got in our society of like, we want to see and reap benefits right now. And the way to do that is to practice your sport, right? And get better at it. But they don't realize that, and this is kids and parents sometimes, that going out and doing other things may help in the long term with your sport, right? You're developing, and I think we've spoke about it before, of you develop certain attributes playing other sports that can help you, physically or mentally in your other sport, your main focus. Besides the fact of just getting away from the game is so important mentally. And physically, because doctors say now these kids specializing in sports from a young age, how these chronic injuries are going to become so much more prevalent because you're just using the same body parts over and over and over again with no break. So, it's difficult because they want to be the best right now and think that, well, if I'm not always the best, how am I going to make it pro? Because only that small little tiny percent make it, or that tiny percent get a college scholarship, right? So if I'm not consistently the top in every age group, then I won't get there. But I think that, as long as you have that desire and that love of the game and continue to grow, you can eventually get there and pass people that are currently above you.
What other, if you were to talk to the 15-year-old you, so basically if you were to catch up with yourself last week, if you were to talk to the 15-year-old you to tell you to do other sports that would help you with your soccer, what other activities and sports would you tell the younger self to do to where you could still be what you ended up being?
Yeah, and I will say, when I was 15, I was, I'm in high school, and I'm down at IMG Academy, so I'm only playing soccer now. I've stopped playing baseball, I've stopped playing basketball, so I'm only playing soccer as well, and not year round, but essentially pretty much. It's some time off in the summer, but pretty close to it. So 15 is an age where I think that you probably are starting to focus solely on one sport, but that doesn't mean that, even now, like professional athletes, professional soccer players, MLS guys, right, in the off season, they're playing basketball and playing hockey and doing other things and swimming, to keep their fitness up, because, you don't have to play soccer to keep your fitness up. So there's benefits to doing that, of like just mentally getting away from the game. So it's just, you sometimes you don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it. Right. And so it's like taking that time away from soccer sometimes can bring the love back, if your love is waning for it.
Abby brings up a couple of interesting points. And one, she's suggesting dance. Tap was great for her son. You had to work on shifting weight. Ballet was great for muscle flexibility. That's something I would have never thought of, but that's spot on.
Totally. I think that, for me, I've been huge on stretching my entire career, because I had Osgood Slaughters, which is that, like, that bump below the knee. It's like a growing pain. I had that pretty bad in middle school and high school, and I went to PT, and they stretched me so hard. And ever since then, I've always been super flexible. And I think it really helped me throughout my career. I mean, I think I had like one muscle injury where I actually missed time in 15 years. And I think a lot of that, some of it's luck, and taking care of myself, but some of it is absolutely because I stretched a lot. So I definitely think something like dance and ballet and things that you're stretching, and even yoga, is super helpful.
How much yoga stretching do you still do today, even though you're looking at everybody else at training camp? But how much stretching do you still do today?
I still do it, not nearly as much for sure, but my kids, again, won't stretch unless I stretch with them.
Okay.
They still don't see the benefit. So I stretch with them to force them to stretch. So a couple times a week.
Okay. Halftime with Michael Parkhurst, caps here for the Friday Free Kick, and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. Abby brought up another interesting point, another thought here, and it's about the late bloomer. And it's really hard, she says, for when a player is a late bloomer, they feel behind others because they're slower to grow in height and muscle mass. How many late bloomers have you come across in your mentoring with you and Greg?
Yeah, a few, and that's difficult, right? There's always late bloomers, and even from my own personal perspective, I was, always a good player when I was young, but I was always also one of the quickest and fastest. And then I went through a period where I was not in the top half of the team in speed. And I just, everyone else was growing muscles faster and getting faster and quicker. And I just wasn't. And that frustrated me for sure. And I thought, man, I'm not going to be one of the fast ones anymore. Like, yeah, this is frustrating. But I will say that those players learn to play and to keep up by using certain skills that really, really benefit them once they start to mature, if they're able to stay with it and keep their confidence up and see the long game. And even with myself, like I wasn't ready to turn pro after high school, like some other players were. Like I needed time in high school, in college, to develop. I was small and needed time to play against other players. But again, that instant gratification is difficult, right? We want to be the best and don't understand that. And that's why we as a national team program have really struggled, why is it that so many of our players that play on U15, U17 national teams don't end up playing for a full team or don't end up being really good pros and stuff like that? Because a lot of those players are just the players that developed physically quickly, right? And they're faster and they're bigger and they're stronger. And so they're better. And then when everybody catches up to them, they realize, oh, my skills and what I've been relying on is no longer a strength because everybody else got there. But those players were relying on things like the mental side and their technical skills. But then when they grew, they had that whole package where the others didn't.
We mentioned instant gratification, we mentioned today's growing athlete, it's all of these things. It just seems to me that, we had pressure when you and I were in organized sports. Obviously you were far more successful than I was, but it just, growing up and all that kind of stuff. When you look at today's athlete and what they want to do, high school and beyond, I would think that self-expectation is a lot harder on them. I would think that the pressure is a lot more on them coming from a bunch of different factors because you add in social media and all these kinds of things. How much more difficult do you think it is for the younger athlete today, even from the athletes of, say, 5 years ago, to try to accomplish what they want to accomplish? It just seems like there are all of these obstacles, more obstacles in their way than even 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. You're right. There's a lot of obstacles. And at the same time, there's more than ever opportunities and ways to get better and improve, right? All the technology and all the things out there and nets and contraptions and this and that can help you work on your game, right? That we didn't have, and I think that the average player is so much better these days than the average player when we were growing up, because of that and because the coaching's better, because there's more opportunities and more kids are playing. So it is more difficult for sure. And social media doesn't help, right? You see these kids that are 8, 9 years old that, are dribbling soccer balls and doing these tricks and all this and that. And, then you start thinking, well, geez, I can't do that. And they're younger than me. And, then that's getting to you. And it's like, funny thing, one thing I really did not like about going to summer camps, even as a pro and talking to kids and stuff, because they'd always want me, show me a trick, do something fun. And I'm like, guys, I can barely juggle. It was not something I worked on. And I am not proud of it because, I think that juggling is important. It really improves your touch and there's real benefits to it. But I never had the patience for it. I never enjoyed juggling. I just didn't juggle. I never did tricks. I got frustrated, and it doesn't really help you out on the field that much, I don't think.
I was going to say, it's kind of like taking algebra or European history in high school. It's like, what is algebra? What's trigonometry going to do for me as an adult, right?
Preach. Yeah.
It's like you're sitting there going juggling, and what does it mean for me as an athlete? And I'm sitting there going, man, I got C's and D's in trig and physics, and I had no business being in there. It wasn't going to help me do what I was going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have to find what's right for you. Like, I could pass a ball against a wall outside my house for hours. And that was how I worked on my touch. It wasn't through juggling, because I found that fun, just passing the ball against the wall and receiving it and doing different things when I received it and stuff. And that's what helped my touch so much, not juggling. But anyways, it's just get back to the pressure of like seeing this stuff on social media and, comparing yourself to other kids out there. That's an obstacle that definitely makes it harder on this younger generation.
No doubt. And so when you were finding those things that helped you out, and there are questions in the queue about the men's national team. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. But when you were finding those things that worked for you and helped you with your game, man, it makes me wish that there was such a thing like a soccer pitchback like we had in baseball, where you throw the ball and it just bounces right back to you. I wish we had a soccer version of that. How many times did you have to help repaint or replace planks from all of the work that you did from all of your passing drills?
I was fortunate. There was this, like, where my house was, and attached to the driveway, there was a little bit of cement. It was probably like 1.5 feet of cement before the siding of the the house started. So I probably damaged a bunch of the siding, when the ball accidentally got above the cement. But there was one window that, was down into the basement, one of those like smaller windows next to the cement. And I definitely broke that a couple times. But that may have been more with the baseball, throwing it against it more than the soccer ball.
Okay.
But yeah, there was definitely some damage. And I think some mental damage, especially to one of my aunts that was always over at the house because of the constant bang, bang, bang against the house. It drove her nuts.
Hey, dude, but the thing is that you're working on your craft, and that's what matters. And if your aunt is like, Michael, stop all that noise, it's like, but I'm working here, It's like we'll chill in a bit, when the sun goes down, then I'll come inside, and then you won't have the noise anymore. All right, so let's take technology out of it for a second. And this is just a question that I thought of here. I know that shocked you. If you were in the most rudimentary situation or environment possible, and you had a soccer ball with you, and you wanted to do something with the soccer ball just to kind of stay sharp. I mean, you could be out. This is like a summer camp thing. You could be in the woods. You can be in the backyard. What are some of the real simple things, if you take technology away from it all, that you can do to just help stay sharp in your game? Is there anything that you mentioned with the cement and all that kind of stuff. What other kinds of things do you think, if we pull technology away, just the basic stuff that can help in the day-to-day if technology is not with us?
Yeah, and I think just having a ball, and you don't even need anything other than the ball. And there's so many different little things that you can work on, right? Even for me, I didn't like juggling, but I did love punting the ball up in the air and bringing it down, like pretending, okay, there's a guy coming up on me on this side or that side. And what do I have to do with my first touch? And I have to take it away from this person. Or same thing, just dribbling around in small areas and pretending and thinking in my head, okay, this guy's coming up on me, or I want to do this. And then, and just using my imagination of where defenders are and what I want to do with the ball. And then you're just dribbling around using different parts of your foot and turning and moving and just all of that, being comfortable with the ball. And then when you get in those situations in a game, your body's a little bit more relaxed because you've kind of thought about it a little bit, and you're not as stressed when, a ball's up in the air and a defender's coming, or you're dribbling and someone comes on a certain side or whatever like that. Right. So yeah, if you have cones, dribbling in between cones and stuff like that, sure, it's great, but you don't have to have it. You can do that stuff without anything. Just out in a field or in your front yard or anything like that. So many different things.
Yep. And that was kind of what I wanted to get into. You mentioned imagination. And I think that we of a certain age group used our imagination probably more than those that are closer to this particular date because of all that technology that's around us. And I think that we get locked into technology a lot, when sometimes the answers or those aids can be just the simplest things, and we just come back to our imagination and think of things in 3 dimensions that way. I think that gets lost sometimes.
Totally. It's definitely a problem, a struggle with the younger generation. My kids, like I said earlier, they cannot use their imagination well. And I'm sure there's some kids that still can. Mine struggle. Like I said, if they don't have tech, or if I'm not playing with them, then they struggle of what to do. And so it's definitely something that this younger generation, because they haven't been forced as much as we were to use our imagination when they were home alone and doing things like that. So yeah, different generations.
All right. A couple of minutes left. And I know that folks have wanted to know your thoughts on the men's national team and the January camp. And we've got Atlanta United kicking things off in Chattanooga tomorrow. Jason Nix wants to know what your thoughts are on the Serbia match, the group they brought in, and the January camp in general. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that the group they brought in was great. A lot of younger players, first-time players, a few veterans. That's what January camp is for, right? It's difficult to bring in a guy that doesn't have any caps into a meaningful big game, because like you saw against Serbia, a bunch of these guys were nervous. You could tell it was their first cap. They were nervous being out there. And that's a game that means nothing against a B-side Serbia team, right? And in front of like, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 fans.
Yeah.
You know, if there was any environment to make your first cap when you're not going to be nervous, it would be that. But that just shows you how much of a big deal it is to represent your country and to get a cap, right? These players were nervous. You could see it. And so that's expected. Of course, you wish that the team played better. I was happy for Julian and I was happy for Brandon because, you know, that was classic cross, great movement by Brandon and a great goal. So that I was really happy to see that. But in general, the rest of the performance, especially in the first half, was forgettable. But expected. It's good to get those guys that game because some of those guys will feature for the national team in the future, and they need games with that jersey on to, you know, feel comfortable so that when they get into an actual big game and need to have a good performance, that hopefully they'll be ready for it.
Yep. 7 debutantes starting 8 ended up getting their first caps by the time it was done. And I always talk about Glengarry Glen Ross when it comes to this kind of thing. Always be BC Cruton. Always be Cruton. And you got the dual nationals. You got Zendejas, you got Senora, and you got Brandon. And you're seeing the men's national team working their way. It's like, okay, hey, you know, you may not get the chance with El Tree, but you can get it here. And you're seeing this angle being worked to the success, to the addition of folks for the men's national team now too.
Yeah, totally. And that's a big part of it, right? Of the dual nationals, not only hopefully getting them into our program and buying them in, right? So they want to play for our country, but just the camaraderie within the group is important. And look, it's a difficult time for the national team right now, right? It's in chaos and flux over there, people leaving, and there's no leadership whatsoever on the men's side. You know, obviously they have an interim coach, but all the players know it's an interim coach. So it's not ideal situation. And so the players need to make the most of it though, because it's still the national team. It's still an opportunity, and whoever will be the coach was probably watching that game or will watch it at some point. So, it's an important thing for these players and for the development and for the national team, but you know, the result's not important. You just hope that the performance is a little bit better. But you know, the atmosphere is terrible. So, you know, it's January camp.
Exactly. And speaking of January camp, Atlanta United kicks off tomorrow, playing Chattanooga FC up at Finley Stadium, hoping to have a big crowd up there. It all starts anew again for Atlanta United tomorrow officially.
Nice. Yeah, it's exciting, you know, and the team's not set yet, right? It's not where it needs to be. And, you know, there's obviously rumblings of signings, and for sure there will be some. So, you know, it's a good opportunity to see, you know, where some guys are and, you know, start to get fit and whatnot. But yeah, I wouldn't expect too much. You know, it's early on in preseason, but, you know, if I don't know where Miles is on the recovery as far as playing time and stuff like that, but that's, for me, getting him and Brad out there in some game minutes here in preseason is the most important thing. And then hopefully, you know, getting the signings and creating a good locker room and a good vibe within the team.
All right. And what's the latest with Beyond Goals? What are you and Greg up to?
Yeah, like you said, high school season starting up. So we've been speaking with a few high schools. We speak again to I think Walton next week or the week after. So just making our rounds, trying to get to as many high schools as we can, and you know, try and set them up for success not only in this season but you know, down the road.
Raider Valley and BG Mentor and Cap, as always, it's great to catch up with you and Greg. Great to have you guys here for the Friday Free Kick. Enjoy your weekend and pull folks away from technology. Just pull them away from technology a little bit. Enjoy what's going on. Have a good weekend, my friend.
You too, John.
All right. Michael Parkhurst at MF Parkhurst on the Twitters. And yes, the other W. Yeah, go Wheeler Wildcats. Exactly. So it's always great to catch up with Michael Parkhurst and our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. For those that listen to the show and watch the show, if you download the Soccer Down Here app or on your favorite podcatcher, however you follow us. Always know that when we do have segments like what we have with Michael, the entire show does get posted to the network in its various forms and places. But what we also do when we have special guests is we pull them aside and have those individual segments placed as well. So keep an eye out when we have all of our friends that come and visit. Those individual segments get pulled and they get put into the queue for the network just as much as it is when you have the shows that we have on a daily basis. So Bart Keeler coming up just around the corner to discuss U.S. men's national team stuff. But since it is top of the hour, it's time for me to turn the music way down when I turn it back on. So let's go to 12, kill the loop, turn on the rock and roll, and here we go. For odor-free, clean, fresh, one place you need to go, it's a Lemonize service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Lemonize service deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Lemonize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use a Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. Turnkey process makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, we like that these days. Offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than the Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard and you pull out the masking agent, you spray it in here. There's a reason they call it a masking agent. Masking the odor, not attacking the problem, all the way down to the molecule, like Lemonize does with their proven scientific formula. Price is very, very easy. One of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked for, otherwise, go to the website where I grab my pen. We have a homework assignment for you. AfterEliminize.com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from so they can help you with your issue. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. Eliminize.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Freestyle Friday, where we are flying through all of the stuff that's going on. Great to talk about stuff. That's the official term in the first half hour. Great to have Michael Parkhurst and our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring coming on the second half hour. Third half hour means hour number 2, and that means Bart Keeler, who is really getting his frequent flyer miles here for the show this week because, I don't know, things are happening. And as we continue to pull him away from the real world, is it the Arsenal mug or the West Virginia mug today?
Arsenal mug today, because obviously got an FA Cup match against some random team from, I don't know, some random division in England.
Oh, hang on. Let's see who this random team is before we get into all of the other stuff that we wanted to have you on to talk
Some team with some newfound success.
Some team with some newfound success. Okay, so FA Cup, round of 16. And, yeah, I've heard of them. And it's 3 o'clock today, and you are a decided underdog, sir. The juice boxes have Arsenal at a plus 342 at the Etihad against some team called Manchester City.
I'm not concerned.
You got other things to focus on, sir.
Yeah, we're trying to win a Premier League trophy, a Europa League trophy. You know, FA Cup would just be a great thing. I did say my goals for Arsenal at the beginning of the season were to finish top 4 and win a trophy. So,
okay, you're right. You're right on. You're right there with what you're thinking. So. Let's see. So writing, let's see. Bartimus Prime talking hashtag USMNT and anything else. If I could type on his mind, this is what happens when you're doing live promos. Catch the conversation at twitch.tv/soccer down here.
Ricky, you know what? WVU's had a really good, not Big 12 record. So I don't know if Auburn's ready for that smoke.
Well, careful, sir. You're going to have to talk to the boss about that. You are talking to someone who married into the South.
Oh, I know.
And
but
so
someone was talking smack in the comment section.
She is absolutely livid after what happened, losing to Texas A&M, I believe, the fighting Texas Aggies.
Yeah,
without their band. And yeah, just don't get me talking about their football team, because we will hit the explicit button on the promo.
Do they have a coach?
You want to call it? You want to call the quitter that? You go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. 27 kids in the portal. They are the NCAA Division I. Look, they are the league leaders at portaling, brother. And when you got the quitter and Bobby Petrino as your 1 and your 2, don't think for a second that Petrino's not sitting there and he's going, all right. Gee, what happens?
Speaking of portals,
yeah.
Speaking of transfer portals, Ernie Stewart entered the transfer portal.
Absolutely. All right, so let's, before we went off the air yesterday, and I encouraged everyone to go and keep an eye on that particular on that presser, because we knew it was happening. Ernie Stewart leaving, Brian McBride officially leaving. So the best way that I probably could phrase this is like you're cleaning house without saying you're cleaning house.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's happening. Like I said earlier in the week, we've kind of heard that Cindy Parlow-Cohen and JT Batson kind of want to clean house a little bit. Obviously, I think they recognize the problem of having literally any USMNT player who played between 1990 and 2002 on the team, that they just have a very toxic relationship with each other. Obviously, they could very well hire someone from that era again, but it did seem like the relationships that these men had did not work well to create a good environment to win soccer games. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a problem that there was so much personal connection to each other, because I think that's why the Reynas felt that they could talk to both Stewart and McBride and Berhalter the way they did.
Yeah. And now the process is, as it was announced, the new big boss head honcho will be the one to determine who the new head coach will be. So for the interim, it is going to be the substitute teacher, Anthony Hudson, who is going to go through this camp and anything else that is going to be going on.
Yeah. So I think my general take is I'm okay with the timeline of hire a new sporting director, let that sporting director hire a new USMNT coach. I think those two series of events should fall in line that way, right? What is concerning is that this feels like the whole process could have been started much quicker. Brian McBride announcing he was leaving, supposedly said he was doing so before the World Cup. Well, you could have made that known in much sooner than this and said, hey, Brian is going to be leaving us after January 31st. We're so thankful he's going to get us through the World Cup, get us through the youth training camps in January, and then we're going to move on. Similarly, we could have done the same with Greg Berhalter. I think I've been very clear about the fact that I don't believe he should be the next USMNT coach.
I've never heard this point of view from her.
Yeah. And so you could have just very easily, after the World Cup, said, hey, thanks, but no thanks, we're moving on. Or you could have said, we're not renewing his contract because Ernie Stewart will be leaving us as well. Because I doubt this information came to Ernie yesterday.
Yeah.
These things, as we talked about, I think over the summer with a certain president departing Atlanta, these things did not happen within a short time frame. These types of corporate moves, because that's what these are, don't happen within a week. These are highly strategized procurements, if you will. So it could have been started earlier. It very well, you could have said, Ernie will be leaving us at the end of February to go take a job with PSV Eindhoven. Certainly, they probably would have known that earlier. And you could have just said, hey, we're not renewing his contract, but he is in contention to be renewed after we've evaluated everything. And so to me, it's not that the timeline itself is wrong. Again, hire a new sporting director, hire a new USMNT coach, hire a new GM for the youth programs. But it seems like we've just delayed it so long that now we are getting to the problem of Anthony Hudson coaching a Gold Cup, and that is not ideal.
And I know that if you sit there and you take timelines and lay them out, even if let's just say, for the sake of argument, that in late 2022, PSV Eindhoven is not knocking on Ernie Stewart's door. Take PSV Eindhoven out of the equation. It would still, following your train of logic here, it would still maintain the idea that even if you said after the World Cup that Ernie Stewart's leaving, Brian McBride is leaving, you still have the holiday season for that bit of a runway to line things up, knowing that Greg Berhalter's contract ends on January 1st, instead of, sitting there and it's like, okay, you're waiting, giving the impression that you're waiting. Oh, PSV Eindhoven's knocking on the door. Here's something that we can attach to Ernie Stewart's departure, instead of sitting there and saying Ernie Stewart's leaving.
Right. And that's where, again, I also don't understand why they didn't have a decision fully made about Greg Berhalter by January 1st, December 31st. That to me is also so weird. Like, you've had 3 years to make a decision on this guy. You saw how the World Cup played out. It was at minimum meeting the expectations. You have your data. You don't need to, unless you're doing exit interviews with players, you have your data on to make that decision if you want to keep or let go Greg Berhalter. So it does feel like, I appreciate the cleaning house.
Mm-hmm.
All of this does feel, with the McBride and Stewart departures, it feels a little too convenient.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it being not as messy. I mean, obviously we've left a mess now, but the departures don't seem messy, and I think U.S. Soccer needs that right now.
Yeah, and the conversation that you've been staring at in the Twitch pitch, contributor Niall sitting there saying that the investigation, according to Cindy Parlow-Cohn, she said that she was hoping that it was going to be done in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Ricky,
which is what I honestly thought maybe that this press conference was about, is that they would have probably had. I figured it was actually going to be talking about Brian McBride.
Yeah.
But we didn't know why he was leaving. So I kind of figured it would be about him or involving the investigation, or maybe both of them. But the Stewart news was obviously just a shock. But also, Niall, very quickly with your words, it's not an investigation on him. Let's be very clear. It's not an investigation on Berhalter.
Yeah.
It's an investigation of people trying to use information to negatively harm the reputation of Greg Berhalter and others within U.S. Soccer. So it's not on Greg Berhalter. Greg Berhalter is a part of the investigation because he may or may not be the recipient of these threats.
Right. And this is what is, we have to be careful with our words here and our modifiers in all of this. And
because people will take that and run with Greg Berhalter. They will say, oh, he's being investigated, because they don't need a reason to hate the guy.
And then, in being careful with our words, Austin, Texas and Austin FC yesterday announced basically a diminished role for Claudio Reyna. And that is also understandable, considering everything that is going on, has been going on. So Claudio Reyna will be, are they going to fire Reyna? Doubtful. It's going to be
I think what they've done is very clear. They've said, you can't be our actual director of sporting, whatever his title was. Because you cannot do what you did. If what has come to light actually is proven by this investigation, and that he was at the very least trying to
he was cognizant.
Right. Well, at the very least, it seems that he was texting with multiple people within the U.S. Soccer organization, upset that his kid wasn't playing enough at the World Cup. That seems to be at least the bare minimum. Whether or not it was blackmail or coercion or anything is what this investigation is going to. But it does seem like at the very least he was mad that his kid wasn't playing, and then wanted to talk to the manager. And I think that you can't keep a guy around who has that level of that. I think we talked about it. That breaks down barriers.
Yeah.
that you can't, that crosses boundary or crosses lines and breaks barriers that you can't really allow in a professional soccer setting, and that does cast doubt on his ability to objectively lead a sporting department.
Yeah. Here's how it was phrased by Austin FC. Transitioned into a technical advisor role from the club's sporting director. In addition to his responsibilities as head coach, Josh Wolf will now serve as the club's chief soccer officer on an interim basis and lead Austin FC's sporting department. Sean Rubio, who has served alongside Wolf and Reyna as director of player personnel since August of 2020, has been promoted to interim sporting director as a part of the restructuring. So that is where things lay out. Reyna will remain, this is from Austin FC's words, as a technical advisor, while Josh Wolf, Sean Rubio will jointly assume additional day-to-day responsibilities, including the club's talent identification, acquisition, and management strategy, as well as full technical and high-performance duties, while Wolf will lead the sporting department as Austin FC's interim chief soccer officer. Both he and Rubio will report directly to Austin FC majority owner and CEO Anthony Precourt. Yeah. So it is a diminishing of duties for Claudio Reyna. It is not going to be a firing.
I think what will happen is probably later on this season we'll learn that Claudio is no longer doing stuff with Austin FC.
Yeah, whatever
it feels very that.
Whatever the length of the contract is, then that is when he will be advising in a technical sense.
Yeah.
And, and you have to think of this specifically in all of the legalities that could possibly be attached to something like this.
Absolutely.
You cannot fire someone just because.
Which, to be fair, I do want to say that I think that's why U.S. Soccer has repeatedly said that Berhalter is still a candidate, because I feel like, same with Claudio Reyna, you can't just fire him because he was mean.
Well, and now technically with Berhalter's contract expired,
right?
He's out there with everybody else. He's looking for work. He's 27 days into looking for work because his contract has expired, and you still it makes sense for U.S. Soccer to say he is still a candidate because he was your last coach. It just so happened through the legalese that we are.
And you can't exclude him because of that reason, right? And so Claudio, you can't fire him because of legal reasons. There may be cause, but that cause is rumor and innuendo at this point, not truly proven. But I do think that this restructuring is an indication of what we will find through that investigation.
Right. So, just once again, when anyone listening or watching is trying to look at the situation, do not jump 3 steps ahead because we're not there legally. And so that is why we are addressing things in a certain way, because the process of investigation is still ongoing.
Right.
And
there are very few things that we know for sure.
Yes.
We know that Greg Berhalter is out of contract as the head coach of the U.S. men's national team. We know that Ernie Stewart will no longer be with the team, with the federation after February. And we know that Brian McBride is departing at the end of this month in 4 days. What we don't know is, what I'm hoping, John, is that U.S. Soccer already had a list of, every athletic director has that list in their drawer. And I'm hoping they have a list of sporting director candidates, people that they've thought of for either be it the GM role or the sporting director or whatever. Hopefully they have one for U.S. men's national team coaches as well. I think that would have been pretty short-sighted to not have that.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that does expedite the process. They obviously hired a consulting or whatever firm, Sportsology, to expedite both. But also, I think what's concerning is they're still doing this internal review of the structure. And I got to be real honest, I think I'd rather have the people in place before we have results of that review, because the idea of having a sporting director and then over both programs makes a whole lot of sense, and a lot of countries do that. But anyway, bye, Abby. I don't want that to be delayed too much. Now, this is my question to you, John, because this is something that I've seen a lot of people gnashing teeth up about on Twitter
Mm-hmm.
is the likelihood right now is that Anthony Hudson is your coach through the summer.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, let's be real honest. The likelihood the U.S. Soccer would have had a full-time manager in place even by that March Nations League window was very low.
Yeah.
So I think we can take that March window, and even if you had a full-time coach, it's almost a walk. Like, what were they going to do? You know,
because a lot of you're going to end up trying to find players.
Yeah.
Because your domestic league is going, your international league is going, and it's going to be a roster of unattached. It's going to be young guys that are let go. It's going to be interesting to see what that makeup is.
Absolutely. And the good thing about the March window is, or even going forward, is Anthony Hudson doesn't have too many players, in my opinion. If you're looking at the Nations League window in March, the Nations League in June, and then the Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
The Nations League, in theory, is you're going to be your best squad you can put out there, right? I think that's been what we saw last time around. I think we'll probably see it again.
Yeah.
The Gold Cup is where you'll probably have to find, as you said, like who is the guys who the clubs will let go, because we know it eats into the European season. But my question to you, John, is if Anthony Hudson is your coach through there, because I don't think it's going to take a brain surgeon to figure out who your 23 best players are for the Nations League. Let's be real honest. I think we know who those are.
Yeah.
You know, it'll take a little finagling to find who that Gold Cup squad is, but I don't think it'll be super hard, if you will. The question now becomes, if your goal as U.S. Soccer is to have your best showing at the World Cup in 2026, are you truly that far behind if you don't have a coach in place by July of this year?
I wouldn't think so.
Something that I've also seen is people are concerned about the showing at the Copa America in 2024, which I look. We don't get anything for winning Copa America. It doesn't mean it's a great trophy.
But there's a lot of ego attached, and
right.
Attach, hey, look what we did at the Copa America, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So, which is fair. At best, it is a great showcase for both U.S. Soccer and the team. That's what it's going to be, right? And a good trial run of the World Cup. So, if you're talking about, let's just say August, right, is when you get your actual head coach in place. You're ready to make that, which, by the way, gives you a summer of being able to talk to European candidates, which I think is a silver lining here.
Yep.
Is 9 months, 10 months, is that too short of a window for a newly installed head coach to get his players, his group together, as Greg Berhalter would call it, and put his tactical system in place for the Gold Cup, or for the Copa America in 2024?
How many excuse me, how many meet and greets do we get in between?
Right. So you have friendlies in September, October, and November of 2023.
Right.
Right. So there's 6 friendlies, hopefully.
Yeah.
And those are scheduled international friendlies, by the way. So those are they're on the calendar. Yeah. So clubs need to release them.
Yeah.
Not quite sure if those are fully friendlies or if the CONCACAF will sneak in Nations League stuff in there, but whatever. You have 4, or do you have 6 actual games in after the Gold Cup in 2023?
Yeah.
You'll presumably have a 2024 Camp Cupcake, which, we can debate the merits, but you'll have that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have March friendlies of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on when Copa America will fall, but that is a full tournament, right? So you have 5 windows.
Yeah, you've got 12. You have 12 matches plus Camp Cupcake 24 leading into the Copa America.
Yeah. Now, I understand that on a club level, that doesn't seem like a lot. But is that too few or too short of a time frame for Copa America to get a team out there that is playing the style of soccer that new coach will want to play?
I wouldn't think so.
I really don't think so either. And again, I think the goal of 2024's Copa America is to figure out if that is the best way to play for 2026, right? Because you're going to be playing actual teams, not Martinique.
Yeah. This is where the rubber meets the road at Copa America. You've got to go in there with an ace.
Right. So yes, it would be ideal that we would have had a coach in place ready to go for the Nations League finals June this year.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great, but I don't know how much the coach is going to learn from those that he won't also just learn from watching game film.
Yeah.
Or scouting his own stuff, because it's not like they just only see these players when they come in for camp.
Well, and if you are also looking in the European theater for your new manager, those seasons, I mean, that's summer. Yeah,
right. You'll have people who will be let go by June 5th or whatever that day is, whatever Black Monday is in European leagues.
I mean, if David Wagner doesn't work out, then he's back on your list in early
Or
June.
You're more likely to be able to get a club to say, yeah, you can interview this dude during the summer when they're not playing.
Yeah.
Right. So I do think that summer window is where you'll see the most activity for hopefully the U.S. finding a coach, because the reality is right now you're only talking to coaches who just got fired after the World Cup, coaches who got fired mid-season, or coaches whose clubs are allowing them to talk, which probably isn't a great sign for their faith in that coach at the club level. So let's be real honest, the coaching pool right now is not fantastic. Because as much as people love Marcelo Bielsa, and I know this is like blasphemy to say on this particular show, but he's not here today. I don't think Marcelo Bielsa is the guy to take any team forward right now. I'm sorry. I think he and Ralph Rangnick are very similar in the fact that their time has passed. They're great theologians of the soccer religion. Maybe not great managers right now. Sorry. But outside of Bielsa, like, there are coaches, sure, available, but are they the coaches you actually want to hire?
All right. As we are having this discussion just now from Sam Borden about 10 minutes ago, discussions between CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, very advanced stages, increasingly likely that the next Copa America tournament will be held in the U.S. in the summer of 2024. Multiple sources tell the four-letter. Agreements between confederations are always tricky, paragraph 2. So there are still some small hurdles to overcome, sources said, but the discussions have heated up considerably since the World Championship overseas 3 months ago. I'm not referring to it by its actual name or the country that it was in. And a potential announcement could be forthcoming shortly. Have already been discussions with some potential venues, according to sources. Possible that several of the cities who are set to host World Cup games in 2026 would also be utilized for the Copa America, Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Quote tweet that and tag Mercedes-Benz Stadium, please.
Yeah. The Copa America features best teams South America, Brazil, Argentina. U.S. participated in the tournament 4 times previously, most recently in 2016. Copa has historically invited guest countries to participate. They reached the semi in 2016. That tournament was also held in the United States. So that is from Sam Borden from the four-letter from about...
I think we've known that, right, John? Yeah. I mean, I think it was very clear that whichever, either Peru or Ecuador or one of those countries was supposed to host it, they can't. The other one couldn't.
Yeah.
For, kind of hard to host a tournament of that magnitude when you're going through a coup d'etat, whichever, I forget which country that was. I think that one was Peru. Ecuador is supposed to host it. They can't. Peru said, we'll do it. And then their president did a insurrection thing.
OG in this morning, morning OG. The federation taking time to fill open positions, including coaches, as long as it's done with some transparency.
Right.
And they're actually talking to candidates, unlike the last time where it was 18 months of radio silence. You end up
1,000%. You're 100% right, Soccer for Good, OG. Like it, and I'm hopeful that it will, because we have all new leadership in charge right now. Remember, last time it was literally the dude's brother.
Worst kept secret known to man.
Right. And a CEO or whatever who's no longer there. Right now, you have not only Cindy Parlow Cohn and JT Batson, who are brand new. You will have an outside sports business firm helping you with this, which I don't even know if they did last time. I don't remember. On top of then whoever you find to be your new actual sporting director helping with the search. So what it seems like is Sportsology is running these searches concurrently. which again is like they're going to narrow down the list of candidates, and it's very likely that the sporting director is going to have a similar list of candidates. Like, look, if you give them 5 people, it's probably at least 3 of them are probably going to be people that the sporting director also would have probably gone after. Like, that's just, it's not like it's not like there are coaches that like randomly pop up like this, especially with the qualifications they're going to want. So but I 100% agree with you. Like, I think there's reason to distrust U.S. soccer as a whole. I don't necessarily think that we should be super skeptical or dismissive of their statements from this particular leadership group. Hoping that Cindy Parlow-Cohn, as I tweeted yesterday, does some leadership and, actually can get this federation through this time. I have to give her credit for the way she handled the equal pay stuff and the CBA negotiations. Those were 2 very important things that Cindy Parlow-Cohn, was very important in their resolutions. So hopefully she and the new CEO, JT Batson, who, by the way, hasn't been on the job long, has already had a lot of issues pop up. Not by his own doing, by the way, but just, hey, hopefully they are able to lead this federation forward. And to be quite honest, the reality of this situation is like this year, though it would be great to have had a full-time manager, this year is about just casting a wider net in terms of player pool selection. So if Anthony Hudson does that, then that's probably a plus.
Sam Stejskal is now adding to the Sam Borden story. Copa will be played in the U.S. Announcement likely coming today, according to Sam Stejskal, about the Copa America, Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
At Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tweet at them.
Yeah, at MB Stadium. So we welcome Jarrett Smith to the tail end of hour number 2. And we've been discussing the Fed, and we've been discussing men's national team. And so I guess the question lends itself now here in half hour number 4. Bart, when do you turn into a pumpkin?
Whenever I
Okay.
Whenever he wants
to do something.
Okay. Because like I said, I just don't want to get you in trouble in the real world, sir.
It's Friday.
Okay. Friday. There you go. Had to be done. All right. So, Jarrett, we've been getting into all of the discussions involving men's national team and all that kind of stuff. We'll get into Atlanta United and expectations and gossip, rumor, and innuendo and all that kind of stuff as we look at the probability, maybe being announced today. The Copa America comes to the United States in 2024, and it looks like it might be just a substitute teacher who is in charge on the touchline for the men's national team for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so it seems. What's amazing is, like, you look at this with the U.S. men's national team, you look at it with the women's national team coming up, because the 3 of us, I assume, will be very busy into the summer with the Women's World Cup coming, with a lot of these sorts of things.
I know somebody's traveling to the venue.
Well, guess who's going to be doing?
By the way, my Cash App is at Barnabas Prime 19 if you want to contribute to my travel fund. Anyone out there?
Guess who's going to be doing live hits from an Uber?
Absolutely.
It's fascinating, though, to look at the way this is all unfolding. It's still not great for the U.S. men's national team and U.S. soccer as a whole, like all this childish spat. Man, still somehow in better shape than Mexico is. Like, player pool-wise, the reports the other day that they wanted to hire Bielsa, and they got overruled.
Mourinho was mentioned here for the men's national team.
Oh, man.
Why do you want to go there?
Hey, there were the reports they went for Zidane as well, which, hey, man, shoot your shot.
Exactly.
By all means. I am a proponent for Ange Postecoglou for men's national team. He did run Australia's national team, got them to a World Cup at one point, and just didn't. There's a lot. Bam's mentioned it before. There's a lot of politics with Australia's national team, but you're still somehow in better shape than some of the other CONCACAF countries around you. What I'm waiting for personally is for Marcelo Bielsa to call up anyone he can in CONCACAF and say, "I will run your country. I will run your team. Whatever you need, just give me Mexico." I don't know if he's that petty. I like to think he can be, though.
I mean, he'll get a chance if he wants to coach the U.S. men, even though I don't think that would be a great fit here.
I mean,
man, you're more welcome to.
I mean, just give me. I want Bielsa in CONCACAF just to see how he would go up against El Tri, just to see what those matches would look like. I want PowerPoint presentations about how El Tri can be completely and totally taken advantage of on the pitch. That's what I'm looking for. PowerPoint from El Loco. That's what I'm hunting.
I feel like Greg could give you that too, because as much as this incredibly toxic U.S. Soccer World Twitter Bird app community trash thing is, the man put Mexico in hell multiple times. No matter how people want to deal with that concept and whether or not they ever want to give him credit for anything on earth, the man did put Mexico in hell numerous times.
Yep, that is exactly it. When you're looking at what you're seeing, Nix comes in and he says the best story today that he heard. Bielsa wanted to coach the U21s for the rest of the year, and his staff would coach the first team at Everton. Like, I don't want the veterans. I want the young kids so I can bring them in. He wants to build. That's what he wants to do. But Everton,
he's 67, I believe, too. I mean,
look,
I know Bielsa's got mercenary energy for days, but
but
like, what do you thinking? What do you think you're getting out of this? 2-3 years?
Well, but it also looks like Sean Dyche is going to be named for all apologies.
I mean, that's the most logical thing for Everton at this point. Like, let's be real honest.
So Sean Dyche looks like he's going to.
Jarrett, I said earlier, I don't know if you heard, I'm not quite sure Marcelo Bielsa is a great actual coach anymore.
I think if he's given,
it's an interesting conversation.
I think if he's given the tools that he wants and you allow him to build, I think he can give you once again. I think he can give you 2 or 3 years in a build.
But that's the thing right there. At this point, for sure, even if he is, it's 2 or 3 years that he is going to give you. And outside of that, we saw it at Leeds. It was magical for a bit. But once it kind of wears off, once the bottle of Michael's secret stuff that the Toon Squad was using, once it wears off, it kind of just becomes a thing where it doesn't really hold, or it doesn't hold through those times. And then he seems very chill about this. He seems, to me, he always seemed very realistic. Like, okay, well, my time's done here. See y'all later.
Yeah,
have a good time, everybody.
Yeah, he's got his thing, and he understands when it's time to go. When it comes to this weekend, Jarrett, since we haven't had the chance to talk to you about it, and Bart, since we'll drift into Atlanta United here. Expectations for the weekend, Jarrett. What are you anticipating? What are you expecting? What do you want to see from the match at Finley?
I don't know how much I'll be able to watch. Busy weekend on my end with family, but I'm hoping that you get a good mix of some first team guys, some academy guys, some guys who are in that second team, who are in kind of that in between area. Hello, Eric Centeno. Hello, Nelson Orji, who you're looking to see if we polish this rock enough, can it shine?
Yeah.
And I think this is a good opportunity for them. Then coming up, the trip to Mexico will be a good opportunity as well. But I'm also not gonna fall over myself with the score line. I want to see how they play. It's preseason. We do this with American football all the time. Of how the year the Lions went winless, went 0-16 back in the day. They went 4-0 in preseason. I'm not as worried about the result in preseason. I want to see how they play. I want to see how the guys are doing health-wise, get their fitness up, build up that chemistry that they have on the field, the little communities that we've talked about in the past. Get that build up and let me see how they play, and then we'll go from there.
Bart, expectations.
Of course, I don't. By that, I don't mean I don't want it to be like, oh well, I don't want to. It's not fully excused. Like if it's just a hot mess.
Yeah.
You can get red flags in these situations, but I look forward to seeing just the little things of how they build that chemistry. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries, Bart. Expectations out of Finley.
No, I agree most with Jarrett. Of like, this is a friendly for people who are on that cusp of making the team. This is their chance to prove that they belong on the team. Because look, I've seen a lot of Atlanta United fans gnash their teeth and whine about how we don't have anyone on the roster, which is untrue. We have 30 rostered players right now, and plus Atlanta United 2 and academy guys. Chattanooga FC has 15 guys listed on their roster on their website.
We could loan them a
So
couple.
they've obviously expanded that. This particular match is going to be against a team in Chattanooga FC that is way below the level of competition we're at, right? Just facts. Sorry, I know people love to talk about Chattanooga FC, but NISA's not a great competitive league. I'm sorry.
Dude, we saw it literally less than 12 months ago in US Open Cup. We did. Saw
we did.
I mean, when the first teams win against each other in a year that was lost for Atlanta United.
Yeah, it was not great for Chattanooga.
Bludgeoned Chattanooga, and but I mean, look at the difference in costs. Look at the difference in salaries. Look at the difference in players. NISA and MLS aren't at the same level. It's okay.
It's honestly, Jarrett, and I'm not afraid to say, NISA is below USL League One. It just is. I'm sorry, especially on the whole.
I don't disagree with you. It has not jumped the way they expected it to, and they cannot seem to maintain
which is
consistent positive
ship.
Yeah, they can't seem to maintain consistent positive momentum. That doesn't mean that individual teams can't.
Right, and I think Chattanooga is one of those. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, you're going right where you're in the lane. I'm jumping into right now. Like Chattanooga is a great example of it, but yeah, it's.
But the point is, I think you and I are on the same page. It's like, tomorrow's match is about finding who can be at the level of contributing to Atlanta United, the senior team. That's what tomorrow's about.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see those guys. I mean, if you get the big names, 30, maybe 45 minutes, and then from there, it's good. And I was having this discussion yesterday. I said it's going to look like the spring training games, like the split squad spring training games in baseball, where you're sitting there and you're just like, okay, who's this on this roster? It's like, Braves and Tigers at Joker Marchant in late February. It's like, okay, who is this? And then that's what it's going to be like for Chattanooga and for Atlanta United. The OG. Once again in this morning, she goes, she appreciated Pineda's comments about changing his approach a bit coming into the season, somewhat more disciplined. I don't think, though, OG, it's going to mean the end of the birthday cake mashing. You got to have some fun, and I think that's still going to be a part of it. Jarrett Yakimakis, we got into a bit of the explanation about.
How to be pronouncing that word?
Yeah, well, I think it's more like Yakimakis. But Yakimakis, and I was trying to explain the Celtic approach, and if they wait, then they're probably tanking an evaluation. What have you been able to glean in the last 24 hours or so?
Nothing grand that isn't already out there. If y'all want to do the looking around, because it's literally just a matter right now of the last reports we had were that Celtic doesn't want to loan him. They want to sell him outright. Atlanta United was looking for a loan with an option to buy. A lot of it feels like silly season posturing. It's the meme, the meme in England of just one normal match of soccer. That's all I want. Will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
One normal transfer saga will never happen. We'll never get that, and I don't think we will. I'm interested to see how this goes though, because you have. Look, the window for MLS and Japan are both open till April. That's all that matters. They can talk about, and I don't. And here's the thing with the tabloids. Tabloids are doing one of two things in Europe. They're either A, dumb, and they don't know how transfer windows work, that your incoming transfer window defines whether or not someone can come to your league or not, or B, they know that they're intentionally misleading people and being malicious. One of those two things is what's happening here. And with Yakimakis, Celtic is, according to one of the reports, that if he doesn't, go to Atlanta, then he can either take the Japan offer or he can stay there till the summer. God only knows what that looks like, because I don't know how much he's going to play if he does that. They just brought in a replacement to play as they brought an O to be a physical striker and to have a similar role behind Kyogo Furuhashi. And I feel like his value is going to go down even more if they do that. But it feels a lot of it like just we're posturing right before the transfer deadline. Because am I crazy in thinking the easy option here, if we want to pull out Occam's razor and sharpen it a bit, is loan with an obligation to buy?
Yeah, and I think that. But once you've got to look at it from the cap perspective, and if the loan with an obligation will be what will work. Giacomakis has said he wants to go to Major League Soccer for family reasons and does not want to go to Urawa Red Diamonds. And I have to slow down every single time that I have to say that franchise name because of how it's labeled in
Urawa.
Yeah, exactly.
I just think about the clergyman in Princess Bride.
Oh, I was thinking about Gilda Radner as Barbara Walters in Saturday Night Live. It shows you the age difference. But he doesn't want to go to the J League. The number right now is 4 million pounds, I think. 4 million euro, 4 million pounds. But he wants to go to Major League Soccer. This is now on Celtic, and Celtic runs the risk of a lowered valuation for anyone who wants to chase after him if they hang on to him, because O is now in camp taking his minutes. So this does not behoove Celtic to hang on to him, because right now you've got that number that's maxed out and you're going, can we get that in the summer if he ain't playing? And my answer to that is no. I don't think I'm wrong.
I mean, like I said, I'm interested to see how it shapes out, because as much of it is, and I know everybody hangs on literally every aspect of it, and it is very much a human nature thing to hang on to every aspect, especially when you're anxious for transfer news.
Mm-hmm.
And you finally get some. You're going to hang on every single crumb, and it is a marathon, not necessarily a sprint.
That is true.
Because you get the news, everyone gets excited, it goes quiet, everyone gets anxious, you get more news that it sounds like it's coming, everyone gets excited again. Now it's hit a hang up and it's doom and gloom. And look, it might not get done. They might not be able to hammer it out. And maybe he goes to Urawa, or maybe he stays in Glasgow. I don't know. There's a chance it doesn't get done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end of the world if it doesn't. We'll have to see if they find that. My favorite one, by the way, is the French news about the French story about Albert Elise.
We haven't gotten into Albert Elise.
Bart, I don't know. Bart, I don't know if you saw the wording they used about a quasi obligation to buy. I want to know what that means.
No idea what that means. No idea. What, like, is it that, like, because that just what? Is there an obligation to buy, or is there not? Is the obligation that they'll think about buying?
I'm thinking
what?
I'm thinking maybe. Thinking perhaps.
I will say kudos to LAFC for again finding a way to somehow not actually have to get a full budget charge for this player.
Yep. Ligue 2 second place side reportedly reached, this is from our friends at Get Football and News France at GFFN on the Twitters, reached an agreement for a loan with a quasi obligation to buy 5 million euro. That is some serious massaging of the rules of engagement. I mean, seriously, a quasi obligation. All right. I'm going to look up the word quasi is that like ersatz? Quasi. All right. So the word quasi so Merriam-Webster, having some resemblance, usually by possession of certain attributes, or having a legal status only by operation or construction of law and without reference to intent. Okay. So if it's without reference to intent, it's like I'm saying it, but I'm not saying it. It's like I'm interested, but I'm not. I might buy him, but I might not. Am I wrong here? Is this what John Thornton? It's like, we're interested. We want to have him hang out with us for a while, but maybe we'll buy him. Maybe we won't. We'll take him off. Literally, this is what this is. John Thornton is going to the second team he's going to Bordeaux, and he's like, we're interested, we'd like to take him off your hands. We'll take him off your hands. We know you don't want him. We know he wants to be here. We'll take him off your hands, and then he'll kind of come and play with, he'll be a part of things here for a while. And then maybe we'll buy him, maybe we won't. Am I off here? Am I thinking that this is what's going on at the new BMO Stadium? That's like, yeah, it's like kind of it's so. Ooh, Soccer for Good OG brings up a good analogy. Is this like the Aaron Rents of soccer players? Is it like rent to own? So is Albert Elise and John Thorrington like the Aaron Rents of soccer players?
That's what it sounds like. I 100% agree. It sounds like it's we'll try him out.
It literally, it's like Farmers Furniture or Aaron Rents. It's Aaron Rents for soccer players. Maybe LAFC should be sponsored by Aaron Rents. So that's what I'm thinking. Bart, is the real world getting in the way for you? Or are you just multitasking?
Kind of, but I can still hang. I just need to make sure that I'm not multitasking at this point.
Just checking. Because so Ricky Ricardo says LAFC going to be playing 8 forwards next season. What in the world? It's almost like Bob Bradley never left, Jarrett.
Okay, well, let's talk about this, because here's the question about it. You know the two positions Albert Elise plays? Right wing and striker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with Carlos Vela and Arango? Are you still going to possibly sell Arango?
That'd be my guess.
Because they talked about possibly selling him last summer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like y'all treating this man like John Collins. He's done nothing but score goals for you, and y'all still talking about selling the man.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, unless there's something with Vela where Vela finally does get to go back home overseas.
I think he's locked in still, and I don't expect him. I think they want him to stay. I think it's kind of like a stay as long as you want kind of thing.
Yeah.
But maybe he takes more of a backseat role. You try and shoehorn everybody on the field together. But as we talked to talking to Bam last year, our resident Australian / LAFC fan,
mm-hmm.
that team was better when they weren't trying to shoehorn all of those players on at the same time. So,
I mean, going back to, and I was going back through, and July 1st, Michele Giannone from Tuda Ene was saying that they were looking to sell Chicho Arango, and that's what you were looking at.
I mean, if you sell him, look, for the record, if it's $5 million, I would pay $5 million to pull Albert Elise in without thinking twice.
Yeah. I mean, Arango from Millonarios originally was $2.5 million. And I mean, if Albert Elise, but honestly, if you're talking $5 million, if you're legitimately talking $5 million, how much of, and this is, and Ricky going down this road, Ricky's like, we can give LAFC some quasi-am and take him off their hands.
Yeah, I think Arango in a heartbeat, man.
And that's the thing. It's like you got.
Yep, absolutely would.
So we're now dealing. It's almost like LAFC's dealing in the Bitcoin of Garber bucks now.
They are. Which Garber bucks were the original Bitcoin.
Yes. So now.
So when do Garber bucks collapse under the weight of their own stupidity?
I think they are rapidly approaching that as the Apple TV deal continues to evolve. But we'll see.
When you have the need for a fourth DP and really the abolition of the salary cap in Major League Soccer.
Yep.
And see, that's part of that conversation with Giakoumakis. In Scotland, I think they're trying to people are trying to figure this all out. I'm like, look, hey, Scotland, here's the thing. You got some weird stuff. We do too. MLS does its own really weird stuff that's hard to really pin down. Trust us when we say that we can do weird just as much as you can, and Scotland doesn't have a salary cap to deal with. Atlanta might want to do a loan with an obligation to buy and say, we don't want to pay the money right now. We don't want to pay it up front.
Performance metrics.
We don't know. Yeah, maybe, or maybe it's something based off performance metrics, whatever it might be. It's just, it could be a lot of stuff. It could be weird.
Okay, and in addition to the stuff that we've been talking about in the last 25 minutes, from CONCACAF now just released, CONMEBOL and CONCACAF sign a strategic agreement, national team competitions in 2024, and a new club tournament. Men's Copa America will be played in the CONCACAF region and will include all 10 CONMEBOL national teams and 6 CONCACAF guest teams. 2024 CONCACAF W Gold Cup will include 8 CONCACAF women's national teams and 4 CONMEBOL guests. The confederations will create a new competition that will include participation of the best men's clubs in South America and CONCACAF. Paragraph.
I will give you $1 to call it the Super League.
The Super League. CONMEBOL and CONCACAF have announced the signing of a strategic collaboration agreement to strengthen and develop football in both regions. Paragraph 2, CONMEBOL Copa 24 will be played in the United States in the summer of 2024 and will include 10 CONMEBOL teams and the 6 best CONCACAF teams as guests. The traditional CONMEBOL tournament will be co-organized by both confederations. The 6 CONCACAF national teams will have the opportunity to qualify for this competition through the 23-24 CONCACAF Nations League. So there you go. So it sounds like tweet at MB Stadium, please. So there it is. It's Copa America, 16 team grid, and it's 10 plus 6, all of CONMEBOL, 6 from CONCACAF here in the States next year. So you will have the substitute teacher for the men's national team, Anthony Hudson, hanging out for the first 9 months as it has kind of been talked about this morning with Bart, Jarrett, that it looks like Anthony Hudson for the foreseeable future because of everything kind of being kicked down the road. And so Anthony Hudson for a while as your major domo as they try to figure out who the next head coach is going to be.
That's fine. I mean, there's going to be other options. They might go off the board with it. I'm sure that segments of U.S. soccer, there is no making them happy because there are segments of U.S. soccer Twitter that exist solely just to be pissed off.
Yeah.
They don't actually want to be happy. No. They want to have something to be upset about, and they want to play the superiority card, and they're going to create an environment that is like worryingly toxic. I don't think for some of them that there is any actually making them happy. Stressing yourself about
arguments, Jarrett. That's the problem. There's no good faith or reality. There's no good faith or reality in their arguments.
Absolutely. You are wasting your own breath to even try. Just don't even bother.
Mm-hmm. And also, as a by the way, Fox has the English language 2024 Copa America rights. Univision has the Spanish language rights. So that's will be a lot of us watching Univision in 2024 if we're not at the actual venues themselves. Did I say that out loud? I guess I did. Jonathan Tannenwald, items to ponder. The Copa America traditionally has 2 guest teams. Take 2 of the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, and 1 is still out. Ecuador had already said it can't host the 2024 edition as it was scheduled to. The last 2 editions were played in Brazil. So that's where we are. Get ready. The Final 4 in a club tournament setup. So
it'll be USA, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica.
Yeah. And then
the next ones.
And the other 2 fighting.
They'll probably use FIFA rankings at that point in time. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how they get a Caribbean team in there like Jamaica. They'll probably figure something out. They'll probably say, "Oh, we have to have one from each."
Yeah, one each
of the separate federations within CONCACAF.
Yes. The each individual CONCACAF subreddit gets their.
So I'm trying to think who that fifth team will probably be Jamaica, and the 6th one will be whoever the next best Central American team is, I would assume.
Yeah.
El Salvador.
Honduras,
Panama.
El Salvador, Honduras.
One of those 2.
Yeah. So that's what you're staring at, folks. So that's going to be fun. Let's see. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We got to get into that before we go and figure out who's going where with 4 days left in the window. and where your favorite team is and who they're not spending money on. So here we go. Chelsea may have to delay. What? Chelsea may have to delay plans in signing someone? Malo Gusto from January. Lyon president Jean-Michel Aulas says he expects the player to remain in France. Everybody has a price. We always remind you that. From our friend Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Tottenham, confident a deal for Sporting Lisbon and Spain defender Pedro Porro finalized in the coming days after difficulties in negotiations with the 23-year-old's release clause. Everton expected to drop their £60 million asking price for Anthony Gordon and accept around 40 in add-ons after their original valuation put Newcastle off. Gordon told Everton he has no intention of returning to the club as he tries to force a move to Newcastle. That's from the four-letter paper. Take that information at your own peril. Chelsea want to sign Everton's Amadou Onana, but while the Belgium internationals turned down the moves, he wants to focus on helping the relegation-threatened Toffees for the rest of the year. The situation could still change. Onana is an option for Arsenal, who want to sign a midfielder, Bart.
Well, Chelsea keeps stealing our midfielders, and we apparently Leeds stole one from us as well. So really hoping Weston McKennie would be there. Oh, well.
Yep, Weston McKennie getting closer and closer and closer to having Tyler Adams as a teammate in the starting 11. I'm looking forward to that if that gets pulled off. Chelsea, Newcastle, Manchester United, all interested in Denzel Dumfries. Inter Milan setting a price of €40 million, £35 million. Arsenal have been told they will have to pay Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubamendi's €60 million release clause if they want to sign him in January. Leeds still ready to pay only 25 to Juve for Weston McKennie. Juve's looking for 33. Bournemouth interested in signing Roma and Italy midfielder Nicola Zaniolo with their move for Villarreal's Nicholas Jackson, looking like it's hit a stumbling block. That's from the four-letter paper. Jackson's injury issues have prompted Bournemouth to make a third bid for Antoine Semenyo from Bristol City. City boss Nigel Pearson admits it's been accepted. AC Milan want to sign Zaniolo, but are interested in Alain Saint-Maximin as an alternative. Southampton keen on Rennes and Ghanaian winger Kamaldeen Sulemana, fastest player at the World Cup, previously attracting interest from Everton. That's from the four-letter paper as well. Leeds set to allow Joe Gelhardt to join Sunderland on loan till the end of the year. Manchester United could make a £105 million bid for Napoli striker Victor Osimhen, but the move for the Nigerian forward would not likely come till the summer. United also looking to send Charlie McNeil, Bjorn Hardley, and Deshaun Bernard out on loan. They are 19, 20, and 22, respectively. That is one section of the papers. Let's get into the other section of the papers. Get into what is going on with viewing habits and everything else. We got FA Cup. Bart's getting prepared for that. Arsenal had a £60 million bid rejected from Moises Caicedo. Roberto De Zerbi says he's focused on Brighton. Arsenal's going to have to really pay up if they want Moises Caicedo. And let's see other papers as we go forward.
I think Chelsea is like Todd Bowley hates Steve Kroenke. This is what I think is happening. Like he just hates him so much. So he's just like, well, I got more money than I'm going to pay. I'm going to overpay for a player that I have zero need for. Chelsea doesn't need more players. They certainly don't need. They need to just play better. But clearly they're not building a real team. So there must be some billionaire beef going on there.
Oh, absolutely. Wolves have agreed to a deal to land Joao Flamengo, $15 million, accepted earlier in the month before it was called off initially. Erling Haaland's prolific goal scoring is costing bookmakers more than any other player in Premier League history. That's on you.
Oh they didn't think they were worried he wouldn't be able to cut it in the Prem anymore.
Oh, we won't be able to cut it in the Premier League. I'm worried about Erling Haaland. Yeah. I don't know about
this. Is on them. This is on them. They looked at surprisingly, the English media thought that a non-English player wouldn't be good in the Premier League and sandbagged him. Like, wow, who could have imagined that happening?
No,
because every good player in the Premier League is not English. This is their general flaw to everything. Every time that they have any sort of the best players in the Prem are not English. They're not even British. So, but they continue to say, "Oh, I don't know if they can cut it in the Prem" when it's a non-English player. It's like I got news for you. They will. Can your players cut it in other countries? Because that's been something that we haven't seen yet. Only Jude Bellingham has, and that's because he grew up playing in he went to Borussia at a younger age. That's the only reason. And I love the Premier League, but I'm tired of English people pretending like their players are somehow superior just because of the Premier League. Nah, the Premier League is great because of non-English players.
You know it. Let's see. Who else did I have on the board? I hate this. Danny Ings has been given an injection in his injured knee to speed up recovery. West Ham's new 15 million pound striker suffered a painful whack barely 30 seconds into his debut last week. Harry Kane, Youngmin Son have been tipped to see like double transfer to Newcastle. That's also out there.
What?
Yeah. Of course, that's from the 3-letter paper. So once again, take that information at your own peril.
Okay, never mind. This is the 3-letter. They played Mad Libs.
Yes. Belgium, according to the Daily Mail, a 4-letter paper. Yogi Löw, Pochettino, and Andre Villas-Boas for their managerial vacancy for Belgium. So good luck on that. Erling Haaland.
AVB would probably love a job that doesn't involve the gates of his facility getting stormed by fans.
True. Erling Haaland has a €200 million release clause inserted into his Manchester City contract, which comes into play after 2 years in the summer of 24. £175.5 million. Real Madrid set to activate Fran Garcia's €10 million buy option. Sources close to Garcia and Real confirm the move is close, likely to remain on loan to Rayo Vallecano. Pep Guardiola, according to the Daily Mirror, has opened the door to a sensational return to Barcelona and claimed he would walk out on Manchester City if the opportunity arose. Does he want that smoke? I don't think so. I don't know if he wants that kind of smoke, but that's just me. Let's see. Cristiano Ronaldo was mocked with Messi's famous Barcelona goal celebration as Al Nassr struggled in Saudi's Super Cup semifinal on Thursday. Who knew that Cristiano Ronaldo would be mocked in Saudi Arabia?
Cristiano's career ending not with a bang, but with a whimper.
He's Johnny Unitas with the San Diego Chargers. Everton manager Frank Lampard has broken his silence with a heartfelt message to the club supporters at the Daily Star. Jurgen Klopp has admitted he will not be managing beyond 70, with the German quick to rebuff emulating the career of ex-Liverpool boss Roy Hodgson. Yikes. Ibrahim Bamba's agent has played down rumors. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Bamba's agent has played down rumors the defender's on the verge of completing a move to Arsenal, though refused to rule out business being done before the transfer window shuts. West Ham expect Mikel Antonio to remain at the club beyond the end of the month transfer window, despite the forward claiming he's held talks over a possible move away. Manchester United looking at Real Betis striker Borja Iglesias. Leeds are convinced they're going to get Weston McKennie. Hey, Daily Record. Celtic are playing hardball with Atlanta United in their pitch for Georgios Giamakis. So it's made the Daily Record headlines. And Rangers are going to have to pony up about £1.5 million if they want to sign Nicholas Raskin this month. And Hearts have slammed Blackpool boss Mick McCarthy.
Is Beal still crying poor?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Standard Liège knocked out, back the opening offer for Raskin, and Hearts have slammed back Blackpool boss Mick McCarthy after he accused him of being dishonest over his side's pursuit of Toby Sibic. So
also, Kevin Nisbet's going to stay at Hibs. He was apparently going to go to Millwall and went down there for talks and is going to stay up in Hibs in Edinburgh. So that's a young Scottish striker that I would expect to make the move to a place like Millwall, like for $3 million. Cool, go down there, see if you can cut it, then get the bigger move and use it as the launching pad. It's kind of what I expected of him. But,
thank you. I'm Millwall.
Yeah, that's one way to go about life.
Fabrizio Romano, Newcastle have reached the agreement to sign Gordon. Here we go. Deals in place for $40 million fee. Everton accept the proposal. Personal terms also agreed in a long-term deal. Medicals to be completed in the next 24 to 48 hours. So there you go. Bart, what else is on your viewing habits as this weekend hits us pretty quickly here?
Well, it seems to be an FA Cup weekend, which is going to be fun. Also, I believe we've got more Bundesliga action finally back. So if you're not into FA Cup, Bundesliga will be around for you.
Yes.
I personally will be watching the Dortmund match on Sunday, but don't expect anyone else to really do that either. Actually, do that. If you like controlled chaos.
Yes.
Controlled is a strong word there. If you like mostly confined chaos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quarantine.
Dortmund's a fun watch.
Let's see. Dortmund is at Bayer Leverkusen, 11:30 on Sunday morning. Bayer Leverkusen is a plus 146. Your draw is a plus 283, and Dortmund is a plus 171. Bayern hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Hertha Berlin, Union Berlin, early on Saturday.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
That's a fun one. Union Berlin at a +117 as well. Let's see what's going on. If anything's going on in Scotland this weekend, Jim.
I'll be able to watch Hearts on television this Sunday, so that's fun. They'll be on Paramount Plus against Livingston.
It's El Sacchio this weekend. We get to see which manager gets sacked because Hibs are playing Aberdeen.
Yes.
Aberdeen somehow gave the most cop-out, pathetic excuse for a statement I think I've ever seen over Jim Goodwin losing to a 6th division team, and they didn't fire him outright. They were radio silent for like 3 days. Then they're like, we'll reevaluate after this week and we'll see how they respond. They just want to, they're going to be able to move the goalposts however they need to. I still have genuine questions that they cannot afford to fire him.
Yeah.
Because they are probably still paying Stephen Glass in some capacity. They would still be paying Jim Goodwin, and then they would be forced to bring in another manager. And I don't know who they could get that is not one of us or someone on the Twitch pitch, though I'm sure some of you have some good IQ and some good ideas. I don't know.
Which means that you won't get hired.
I don't know if you would get hired at Aberdeen.
Okay, so here's
one of these managers is likely to get fired Saturday after the game.
Which means
Jim Goodwin should get fired, win, lose, or draw.
He got fired 4 days ago.
Yeah, man. You cannot have had as terrible of a run as he has had post World Cup and then lose to a 6th division team in a game where you were just so listless and then keep your job.
Yep. So here's the statement that was released by Aberdeen. Chairman Dave Cormack, quote, "We all recognize that Monday's disastrous result in the Scottish Cup was totally unacceptable. It added insult to injury after such a poor result against Hearts following what was a strong performance in the semifinal against Rangers at Hampton." Paragraph. The football monitoring board comprising Stuart Milne, Willie Garner, Stephen Gunn, and me have now had a full and frank meeting with Jim. It wasn't an easy conversation, but necessary after the overall poor results since the World Cup break. Paragraph. From our wider discussions over the last 2 days, we believe that the senior players in the squad are behind the manager. Combined with our discussions at today's meeting, Jim will be in the dugout on Saturday. However, to be clear, Jim has been left in no doubt that the board and the fans are seeking an immediate response from him and the players. End quote. Jim Goodwin still employed by Aberdeen FC.
The immediate response was dropping that game to Darville FC after you, and he, not wrong, played a really damn good semifinal against Rangers. Like, to the point where I was like, oh, when they lost to Rangers, I mean, they had the lead. They gave up a goal in the second half. Then their captain, Anthony Stewart, loses his mind and gets a red card, and they give up a goal in additional extra time.
Yep.
They still damn near found an equalizer to send it to penalties. It was not a bad performance at all. It was really good. And I remember watching that thing and like, oh, maybe all of this trash since the World Cup, maybe they've kind of galvanized a bit around each other. And that was a damn good performance. Nope. They followed that up by getting shellacked in the league and then losing to a 6th division side.
Yep.
I got nothing, man.
It's good to know that you can put in a paragraph that the players are still there for the coach, but you don't put that in the paragraph a year previous. Okay, that's good to know. Viewing today, Turkish Super League on BN, French League on at 3:00. FS1 has Liga MX at 10. Tijuana and Pumas. BN Espanol, your simulcast of Turkish League and League. Fox Deportes has your simulcast of Tijuana and Pumas. On the plus, Belgium, Germany, RB Leipzig, and Stuttgart at 2:20. FA Cup, the match that Bart is gearing up for, and he's trying to get all of his work done before 3:00 and multitasking by being here on the show on a Friday.
I have a meeting for a webinar that I'm presenting next week at 2:00, and I will not allow that meeting to go longer than.
As you should. Manchester City, Arsenal at 3. La Liga Santander, Almeria, Espanyol at 3. Serie A's on Paramount Plus with a doubleheader, 12:30 and 2:45. Will Memo Ochoa give up less than 8 goals for Salernitana? We'll have that answer at Lecce at 2:45. Championship Cove Rangers and
things that bring me great joy. That.
Cove Rangers.
Actually, I don't have much beef with Memo himself. He's been a great goalkeeper for most of his career, but
yeah,
you just,
So Salernitana then fires the coach and rehires him 24 hours later, or was it 48? But yeah, after that they fire the coach, then they bring him back. Cove Rangers are united on the Scottish Championship at 2:45 on VIX Plus. It's Puebla and Monterey at 7:55. That gets you through your Friday. Saturday, it's a lot of the same folks. The USA and Colombia men's friendly at 7:30. Bart, expectations. It's on TNT Saturday. What do you think?
I expect that it'll be on TNT.
There you go.
Honestly, again, like I said for the match on Wednesday, this is about finding players who can possibly help us at the Gold Cup this year. Maybe 1 or 2 who can come back for the March camp. I think we discussed it earlier. Jarrett, I think you would agree, Brandon Vasquez should be in camp in March because he scored a goal, which is something that Jesus Ferreira struggles to do mightily. I also expect Jesus to start Saturday. Obviously, his father played for the Colombian national team for a good bit. So,
but is his father going to try and undermine U.S. soccer?
Well, with Jesus' finishing stats, he has done that already. So I do expect Jesus to start, but I would like to see more of Brandon Vasquez. We won't get to see Alejandro Cedejas, but I think he earned himself a look up for the March camp as well. But is there anyone else who possibly, this is the question for Saturday, is there anyone possibly else who can show that they deserve a call up for that March camp or for the Gold Cup in the summer? That's what you're looking for.
There you go.
Let's see. Yeah, see, I was Jason and I have gone back about this through text numerous times that I was very pro take Brandon Vasquez to Cutter. Not necessarily as a starter. I wanted him as end of the bench, basically the Dutch game of, hey, I need a goal. Get in there. We're going to pump the ball in there, and I just need you to find a quarter inch of space and make something happen, which is what he's good at, is what he has become very good at. I think he has made a good name for himself. I'm trying to think who else would make sense. Julian Gressel, as long as you want to play him on a right wing or play him in a wing back role, but he's got yes, because if you learned anything from the Serbia game, it's that yes, you saw what he does really well, which is when the space is created for him, because he's not great at creating his own space. He's not fast enough. He's not really tricky enough to create his own space. When he has space, though, he can pinpoint a cross and hit a net from 3 miles out. The only downside to that, other than that, is the fact that he does not play defense very well. If you want to play him at right wing and give him cover behind him, sure, absolutely go for it. I can't play him in a wing back in a serious game, though. Or I'm sorry, not wing back. I can play him in a wing back. I can't play him as a right back in a serious game. You'll die.
Got to be honest, I don't know if I can play him in a serious game, no matter what. There's just better options at that position. But
if you wanted to tell me that you're taking him for, hey, I'm putting him on the end of the bench because I need guys who can pump the ball into the box, or
I mean, he's a better option in my opinion than like DeAndre Yedlin or Shaq Moore for that. But it's not like he's not younger than DeAndre, so that's kind of where I'm at with him.
He is damn near or at elite for his specific skill set. The defending side of it, though, man, I can't play him.
Mm-mm.
Like, look at where all Serbia's attacks were coming down.
Yeah,
like
just weren't. They were not clinical in finishing, but they found something heading down that side with Julian having to play defense, and it was an adventure.
You know who I would have liked to have seen for this camp, though, is Andrew Gutman. I thought he'd earned it. I think he has earned it in the last year.
I kind of agree, especially because you look at the left back position, and there's literally no one behind Jedi Robinson who has proven that they belong there. The only person kind of is, in my opinion, Joe Scally, because I think he should be on that roster because he's a right back, but I don't think he's started either right or left back yet. So I'm with you. I think Gutman deserves a call up. I think he, has been proven himself to be a very good, not just defender, but complete soccer player.
Yeah.
All right. But I would love to see him in that. It doesn't have to be with the first team camp. It can be in camps like this one. I think he earned that opportunity.
And
yes, I agree.
Which is a damn shame, by the way. You want to see who's really suffered from all this? Go look at one Bello Kama George.
Oh yeah.
Who this should have been his turf.
Yeah.
If things had gone differently, this should have been the George Bello show for this window.
Yep.
Yeah. Should have been.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he chose a club that wasn't going to be great for his development, and we see how it goes now. So
he chose poorly. On that note, we're going to have a quasi obligation to sign off. And then what we will do is, once again, for those of you, be safe traveling to Chattanooga. Audio 92.9 The Game. Mike and Jason starts at 2:30. Full post game show after the game will be simulcast. The game will be on 11 Sports, ELEVEN, not simulcast, but it will have a broadcast, a stream on 11 Sports, ELEVEN Sports, and that will be up a couple minutes before kickoff as well. Kickoff, I think, like at 3:06, something like that. So. So 11 Sports will have your video version. Mike and Jason will have your audio. Perhaps sync up both or listen to both or have both up. So be safe, everybody who's heading up to Chattanooga as the season starts anew. Chattanooga FC and Atlanta United, 3 o'clock, Finley Stadium there. Bart's got a meeting he's got to prepare for that starts at 2 o'clock. So his 3 o'clock watching of Manchester City and Arsenal in the FA Cup does not get interrupted. Jarrett is preparing for watching everything that he wants to watch this entire weekend. I'm not wrong there, am I? Other than family?
It's literally just like I'm going to try and keep up with Atlanta, but most of it's going to be like running errands, doing family stuff, and then doing and then of course watching Aberdeen and Hibs to see which one dies.
El Sacico, yes. Yeah. And Gio probably will score another winner. So for everybody here this week, it's been a hell of a week. It's been a long week. It's been a fast week. And we're going to have a quasi-obligation to come back on Monday at 9:05. So for Bart, for Nick, for Jarrett, for all of our guests, for Jason, for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Jarrett, send us home.
Mucha platio.
Play it safe. We'll be back on Monday. End of the show. That means I get to do this.